weather outside is not that cold, and if you take my hand, I'll walk with you to Georgia.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Country with Celine. I'm your host, Celine Shamarki, and on today's show, we have artist to watch, Dawson Gray, who is just taking a sip of his coffee. How's it tasting, Dawson?
It's not tasting the greatest this morning. There's nothing to put in it, and it's just like cheap black coffee, so it's getting the job done.
On all those summer nights in the cooler ice, we were tequila and lime in a whiskey town. Yeah, there we go, kicking up smoke, burning up those good years, leaving rubber on the road. We had to let it go, so I won't write you no sad song.
That's all we need though.
What's your go-to coffee? Like what do you get? Like
My go-to right now is cold brew. Like I don't want nothing to do with hot coffee right now. Cold brew with a shot of espresso and like the tiniest bit of cream, and that's it.
It's
That's
okay.
perfect.
Cold coffee right now, because we're transitioning into summer, hits nice. But like hot
Yes.
coffee is more so when it's cold outside, and it hasn't been that cold out in BC. It's been pretty nice.
It's been not bad. I mean, hot coffee, like a really good hot coffee is amazing. I just feel like the ceiling is lower for hot coffee. Or sorry, the floor is lower. And then the floor is higher for cold coffee. Like a bad cold coffee is a cold, nice drink, but a bad hot coffee is just like leaves that taste in your mouth, you know.
Yeah, it lingers. It doesn't go away.
This is one of these today, but it's okay.
It's
That's all I
okay.
need.
After
live
this
with it.
interview, just go brush your teeth, pop in some more mouthwash, and you're good to go.
Exactly.
But actually, before we like transition, I have to ask one more question here. Starbucks or Tim's?
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
I'm a Starbucks cowboy.
How about Starbucks or McDonald's? Because McDonald's iced coffee.
Starbucks. Starbucks for drinks, but McDonald's, honestly, out of all three of them for breakfast sandwiches.
Okay, that's fair. You Starbucks has disgusting breakfast sandwiches.
They're
not
terrible. Starbucks is the worst of all three for breakfast sandwiches. And sometimes I'll just go to Starbucks, get my drink, and then I'll go to McDonald's and get my food.
That's so
Actually,
fair.
that's not sometimes, like a lot of the time I'll do that.
That's well, when you're at the airport and you're traveling for work, that's always what you can do. Go to the Starbucks and then go to
Yeah.
like McDonald's if they have.
Exactly.
So it works out. Well,
Yes.
Dawson, you've been making a name for yourself for a number of years now. How has life been working in country music as a new country artist?
It has been a really, really cool experience, especially in the last 6 months or so. Things have really kind of got a little bit more steam behind them, and honestly, like as an artist, I'm really pushing myself to do more recently. So I mean, the last 6 months I've really taken the time to especially dive into songwriting. So doing that professionally with like other people. Like in the past I really just wrote with myself or a couple of my friends. So in the last little bit I've had the opportunity to write with so many people. It's been really, really inspiring. I just got back from Nashville. That was great. And then a lot of music in the works. I spent a ton of time in the studio this winter, so it's been really fun. A lot going on, and I think too for me, I'm kind of at the point where I'm trying to make that big jump into like competing with some of the best people in Canada, and that's a really hard thing to do. So it's been a bit scary at times or frustrating, but it's cool. There's a ton to learn, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the next couple of years.
Yeah, if you have enough confidence in yourself, you can do anything you want to do. So if you really truly believe in your
Exactly.
music, you'll get to where you want to be.
I agree with that statement 100%.
Well, actually, for music, you really grew up wanting to be a professional baseball player, and then you ended up in music. So talk about that transition and how exactly that happened.
Yeah, I very much so wanted to do baseball. To be honest, like music was never even a thing that I like nobody in my family played instruments growing up. Music wasn't a big household thing. To be honest, especially country music, like nobody in my family even listened to country music. I didn't hear it much growing up. So it was never really on my radar, but baseball was. Sports were a big deal in my family. I played hockey as well, but I kind of baseball was always the path for me, and I kind of specialized in that in grade 10, and that was all I really wanted. I wanted to go the college or university route and then eventually go into the professional side of baseball. My cousin Jordy Alexander, he was drafted by the Kansas City Royals, and he was a big influence on me in getting into baseball. So that was all I ever really wanted to do. I played it at a high level, played it hard, and then I think when I was about 17, I started losing fly balls in the sky. Like I remember my grade 11 year, like halfway through the season, I started just not seeing the ball as well. And then by the time I was in grade 12, I remember we would go out to Arizona for spring training. So that's in March. And we would do that in grade 11 and 12. And we'd pick up guys from all over Canada. I played on a team called the Langley Blaze. And it was awesome. We'd get out there and we'd pick up guys from all over Canada, and we would play 2 to 3 games a day against minor leagues, spring training teams for like MLB rosters. So you get guys from like the Dominican, you get top prospects, you get even sometimes like a couple MLB players playing on the backfields that are just doing a rehab stint. And it was really, really awesome. But I also struggled a lot in my grade 12 year. The grade 11 year was awesome, but when I got there for my grade 12 year, Arizona, like always at that time of year, has like these just big blue clear skies, like no cloud in the sky. And I played outfield in my grade 12 year. I was a catcher up until then. And I remember the first game, I got a fly ball hit to me in the first inning, and I just heard the bat and just never saw the ball, just never picked it up off the bat. And it literally just dropped like 10 feet away from me. And I just picked it up and threw it in, and I'm like, what was that? And then the very next batter, fly ball to me, didn't see it. And then my coach pulled me out of the game. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't see the ball. Cannot see it. And this trip is 14 days long of 2 to 3 games a day. And that was game 1. So for 14 days, I just like went in and out of games and just couldn't see. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. Like really frustrating too, because it's one of those things like, I mean, especially in baseball, like you go through slumps consistently. Like you'll have 2 weeks where you just nothing's clicking, but this was different in the sense like I'm like it doesn't matter how good I can play. Like it was the best shape I'd ever been in, the most I'd ever trained, and I couldn't even play the game. Like I couldn't bat, like I could barely see the ball at the plate, fly balls, nothing. So 14 days I dealt with this, and then I got back and I saw an optometrist, and they gave me contacts, like fresh contacts, but I still really didn't see well, and she wasn't sure what was wrong. And I had to get in with a specialist that took months. I think I had to wait like 6 or 7 months to get into see the specialist. So my entire grade 12 year went like this, where I just like barely could see, and it was really frustrating. And then I ended up signing to go to a school called Johnson County, which was the number 3 ranked JUCO in the nation at that time. I was really excited about it. Had all my room and board booked at the end of grade 12 to go. Flights booked, everything. And then I finally got in to see that specialist 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. And they diagnosed me with something called keratoconus, which essentially just means my corneas are really thin and jagged. And because of that, it's very hard for me, like glasses, like my prescription, like I have a very severe astigmatism because of it. So glasses don't really work. And traditional contacts don't really work either with my eyes.
Wow.
So they basically said like, you need like surgery, and it's called like cross-linking. And they essentially like inject your eyes with riboflavin to strengthen the cornea so it doesn't deteriorate more. And then also like laser eye, which is just like traditional laser eye. But the problem is like when they do laser eye, all they're doing is like doing a laser around your cornea and making it a circle again because it's misshapen, and then you can see. But since mine are so thin, they could barely do that, so they can't really correct my vision much better. And then now I wear these glass contacts that are fitted, and they're like $1,000 for 2 contacts. It's not fun trying to take care of them. And even with all that, they're like, you're not going to see even 20/20, and you probably within 2 years will not be able to play baseball whatsoever. Like you just won't see good enough to do it. And they're right. Like I ended up quitting on a dime. Like that day, I like sat down. I'm like, this last year was such a bad experience. I don't want to do that again. So I called my coaches in Kansas, told them I wasn't able to come. And I luckily had a backup plan to go to school at UBCO. My sister was already up here in Kelowna in the nursing program at the time. And my parents forced me to have a backup plan. I remember telling them, like, I'm playing baseball. Like, I don't need a backup plan. And it meant I had to take a language in high school at the time. Like, you needed either French or Spanish. So, like, I had to take Spanish for 2 years. And I didn't want to, but it ended up being the best thing ever because I actually had somewhere to go. And yeah, I kind of just transitioned out of baseball just like that. Like, it was a really tough thing for me. I don't know if I'm going too far into the question, but like it kind of transitions. Like, part of it was like when I went up to Kelowna for my first year of university, like I pretty much spent the greater part of like my elementary and high school years working towards sports. And I think for most people, like a lot of people should resonate with this. Like when you're chasing a sport at a high level, like you really do give up a lot for it. And you also just don't care about a lot of other things. Like you're like, for me, I was like, why do I need to pay attention in school when I'm just going to play baseball? Like, what does it matter? Why would I want another hobby or something else that I'm doing like music if I'm going to do baseball? Like, it just doesn't matter. And you dedicate so much time to it that the moment that that ends, you kind of are left with nothing. It's a really hard place to be. Like, my first year at university was a really tough time. I remember the first class I had was called Business Management 101, and I took business management as my degree. And there was about 280 kids in that class. And I think it was like the fourth class. I remember sitting there and I was having just an awful time for the first couple of weeks. And I was sitting there and I looked around. And I'm like, what am I like better at, like the best at in this room? Because like for me, that had always been baseball. Like that was, I always had baseball. Like I am really good at that. But now I have like nothing. And I just looked around and there was like nothing that I could do where I felt like I could do it at a high level. And just looking around. So for me, like from that day on, I kind of I actually picked public speaking. Like in my head, I was like, okay, like one thing I think I can do really well is like if we give a presentation, like I'm good at that. Like I want to be the best at like presentations and like working in group work and stuff. So I like picked that as like my mini challenge. And then it kind of like blossomed into like a whole big thing. And to be honest, like still to this day, like very much resonates with me with music. Like when I'm on stage, like I don't just look at it as like singing songs. Like I very much look at it like public speaking and all that. So a lot of those like skills I worked on early in university, like transfer to my music tons. But I picked up music. Like I guess I'll transition this. I'm gonna keep going if that's okay. This is a very long-winded
The
answer.
floor is yours, Dawson,
This
please.
is a very long-winded answer, but like this was probably the most formative year in my life. So like this is the one thing I'd answer really long. But I'd say like that first year university, I picked up guitar, and I actually picked up guitar a little bit my grade 12 year for fun. But that first year of university, I ended up spending like 5 to 6 hours a day playing guitar, and I wanted to be a guitar player. I got lucky that my best friend Ben Dunnell and my girlfriend at the time were both musicians, and not just musicians, like both excellent musicians, which really like had an impact on me. Like the main reason I got into music is because I was tired of third wheeling them while they were playing songs. Like it pissed me off, to be honest.
Love that.
But also like it was awesome because like first off they like showed me like all this music. Like I initially got into like old folk music. Like the first artist I really got into was Jim Croce, like where when I was like getting inspired to do music. Jim Croce, Jackson Brown, the Eagles, like I was really into all that sort of music. And then it just kind of like blossomed. Like for the next year, like I wanted to be a guitar player. I chased that really hard for a year, and then I realized I sucked at guitar, or at least it wasn't good enough at guitar to be a lead guitarist in a band. And then I started singing a little bit, and I didn't think I was that good at that either. So I almost quit in my second year of university, and I started golfing. I was like, okay, golf is going to be my new calling. And I golfed a lot my second year of university. And then I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyways, I got like really into music, like started chasing it when Zach Bryan first came out. I'll kind of leave it at that. I'm going too far.
No, you can keep going, Dawson. This is all for you. Like this podcast is surrounding you. So whatever you want to share, you are more than
Yeah,
welcome to share. And I'm just listening. I'm really
yeah.
enjoying this whole story.
But yeah, like I guess I won't go to like the more like today kind of side of my music because I think that's a whole different chapter. But I think like I remember in 2019, like I wasn't playing much music. Like I had practiced a lot. Like I learned a lot. Like I think the big thing for me, like Ben especially, like instilled like listening to good music makes a good musician and paying attention to like what is happening in great music. So I wasn't necessarily at a level where as a musician I was very good, but I think I really like early on listened to a lot of great music and really studied music and started to understand like what makes great music and great songwriting and identifying that. And then I remember in 2019, I was out on Lake Okanagan. There it is. It's
Have to
beautiful.
show it. Have to show it, of course.
I was out on the lake with my buddy Cole Demers, and it was just me and him on his boat. And he played a song called Heading South that I'd never heard before. And I immediately stopped in my tracks. Like I was drunk. And I said, play that song again. And I'm like, who is that song by? Sorry, this is a little off kilter. And he plays it again. He's like, it's by this guy, Zach Bryan. He's like, I've never heard of him, but it's a really good song. And that night I went home and wrote my first song. I was like beyond inspired from that song. Like obviously like at that time, like I had tons of favorite artists and songs that inspired me. And it was like a completely eureka moment for me where I'm like, that is something that I like resonate with not only like as a listener, but like as a musician where like I want to write a song like that. I think I can do that. And it was the first time I really felt like that like especially his vocal, like I never felt strong about my vocals early on. And I was like, okay, like I can sing like that. And that sounds great. So I started writing songs because of that. And for like the next year, I like wrote songs, and they were all kind of bad. But like it was the only thing like I was really naturally kind of gifted at in music. Like guitar did not come easy, singing did not come easy, but songwriting made sense to me. Um, and then I kind of just did that behind closed doors for a long time until COVID. And then that's when I kind of transitioned into actually trying to do music a little bit, which was I guess I've been doing it for about like 3 years now, or a little over 3 years, where I've been actively going after something with it. But that whole period was just like nobody really knew I did music. I was just like a bedroom musician, and it
I
was like a passion of mine. But it spiraled into what it is today from that stuff.
No, I like your attitude about things, how when you have like a goal in mind, like you do everything you can to do it. Just like you never really had a backup plan, but like your parents told you you should have a backup plan because
Yeah,
I understand that like you should. It is good to have a backup plan, but when you really want to go for something, you're not thinking about that at all because you
no,
just, like, I want to be a baseball player. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. But then certain things happen, and then that's when you kind of have to like take a little detour and figure out something else. And what you were mentioning too about when you're a professional athlete and like even playing in the OHL too, it's like these kids are going to school, but they're not thinking, oh, I should get like a different education other than like play
no,
hockey and just like read textbooks and stuff, but like not really give a crap that much because it's like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But then, like I was saying, certain things happen. But I feel like everything for you happened for a reason. And you found out what like your actual true calling was, which is to be into music. And you enjoy it
yes,
so very much. And you've been doing it for like the past couple of years now, and you love it.
it's
How
been the best thing that ever happened to me.
it is, right? I was gonna say, do you ever like look back and think of like what if though? Because I mean, I feel like that's such a common thing for all of us to do. Or are you really super like, this is what I'm supposed to do? Like, I'm grateful for the baseball period, but this is actually what I really love.
To be honest, I really truly look at it as like the greatest thing to ever happen in my life was quitting baseball. And not because I like don't love baseball. Like I love baseball. I look back on it like fondly every day. But I also have seen like the aftermath of baseball. Like I've seen like I got the opportunity to play with amazing baseball players, like people better than me, like people I was like, I wish I could do what that guy did, and those guys didn't make it. Like it's so cutthroat. Like baseball is beyond cutthroat, and the difference between like baseball and like even chasing something like music is like you have to give up a lot for baseball. Like some of the guys I know that went and chased it like gave up everything. Like they are now just finishing at like 23, 24, 25, and like they're really having to start from scratch from that. And to me, like now when I look back, like especially my grade 12 year, I think my love for the game wavered quite a bit. Um and no, it honestly, the way it all worked out couldn't have been better for me. Like I definitely miss a lot of aspects of it. To be honest, the thing I miss most about baseball is like the road trips and the team aspect of it. Like I think sometimes the hard part about being a musician is like you're going at these things alone sometimes. And it's always fun to like go to battle with someone else. Luckily for me, like I do have a band and I get that feeling now again, which I love. Like it's the exact same feeling, which I find funny. Like even when we step on stage, like I find it very similar to the feeling I would get in baseball, like playing a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the feelings are the exact same. But no, I very much am happy the way things worked out and feel like blessed. Like it definitely like happened for a reason for me. Um, I wouldn't change it for sure. But it was an interesting ride. Like I didn't necessarily, it didn't make sense until recently. And like I got lucky too, like even going to university for business, like doesn't have anything to do with music, but it has been the most helpful tool I've had. Like the fact that I went to university, it gave me like a 5-year stretch to like figure out music while I was working towards something else. So like I didn't have to like chase it when I wasn't ready. And then when I was ready, when I finished my degree 2 years ago, like it's really empowered me to like mix business and artistry really nicely and not be afraid of the business side and actually enjoy, like I enjoy that side just as much as the artistry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it worked out the way it should have worked for me in my perspective.
No,
But
it
I mean, hey, who knows? Like it's always changing, right?
did.
Um,
Maybe next year you'll become something else.
no, no, I think I'm gonna stay with this one.
Okay, that's fair. But business is something that I feel like anybody can really take because it can be applied to anything that you want to do in your life.
Yeah.
It's really good education to have. But I'm surprised you didn't get into like sports management because I know most people who play a professional sport, after that, they still want to be involved with that sport or something to do
Yeah.
with sports. So they usually take up sports management or sports broadcasting. And you kind of just did business and then pursued music. I like that. It's different, but because the majority, like
Yeah.
most people do sports management.
I definitely thought about that. Like that's something I did want to do. I mean, part of the reason why I did what I did was because it was just a willy-nilly backup plan. Like that's what I mean, where like it worked out like in just such a lucky way where like I didn't even want to go to Kelowna when I came out here. I didn't want to take that program, but I didn't want to do nothing. So like I did fall into it a little bit, and then it just ended up making sense. Like I think about 2 to 3 years into that degree, I started to like see a vision for it. But that was the nice thing. Like that's why I did do it. I was like, it's so open-ended with a business degree that you really can apply it to anything you want.
Yep.
And I spent those first couple years trying to figure out what it was. And actually, like I was still figuring it out till my 4th year of uni. Like music was not the intention until my final year of university. Like in my 4th year of university, I started a company that was like a delivery company, and it wasn't fun.
Okay.
I realized that wasn't my passion. Um, but yeah,
Well,
it was interesting.
all right. Well, since then, you've already have started to make a name for yourself. I mean, 1.5 million streams worldwide. Hearing numbers like that, knowing that that many people are streaming your songs that many times, what does it mean to you?
It's a really cool feeling. I remember when I started really trying for music and putting studio singles out, which would have been March of last year. My goal, like I was like, I will be happy with 10,000 streams on the first couple songs. I actually set a hard goal of 855,000, but like I would have been happy with 5 to 10,000 streams on every single release because I mean, that's a lot of people. Like to me, like anyone, like even just a couple people hearing one of my songs at that time, like really meant something to me, and it still does. And the fact that more and more people are hearing each with every song I put out is like, it's a really cool thing. It's almost odd because like you wish you could be a fly on the wall sometimes for people hearing your music. Like the weird thing is you never really like it's so rare as an artist you get to see people experiencing your song. Like sometimes my buddies will put on a song of mine like while I'm in the room, but like it's weird if I'm there. You know what I mean? Like I can't enjoy it if I'm there. Like it would be cool to see somebody just listening to your song sometimes, but you never get to see that. But the idea of that is very cool. And the idea that like your song actually means something to someone is really, really a special thing. Like that's probably like for me, it's always been about the songwriting and the songs.
Mhm.
Like there's obviously a whole lot of other things that come with that, but that's always been first and foremost for me. And that like the idea of getting better and better at that and having more people hear your music and it resonating with them more is like something I always chase. And like it's absolutely the best part about being an artist is that side of it.
Well, you might not be able to be like a fly on the wall when someone listens to your song for the first time in their room or in their car, but you do see people get to listen to your music when you're performing them live. So how has that been like? I feel like lots of people they're singing along to your songs too, so that must be such a surreal feeling.
Yeah, and actually, I think I just left this out. That is like almost tied with like the songwriting side. Like, I think the live music side almost surprised me. Like when I first started doing live music, I started busking on the street during COVID. And that was like amazing. And I had like this little monopoly where like I'd go in the middle of the road, like they closed the street off in Kelowna, the main drag. And the bars would close at 10 because of COVID. And I would get like a crowd of like 300 people. And I knew like 14 songs and I would just play the same songs over and over again. But that's like where I fell in love with live music. And for the next like year and a half, I didn't play with a band or anything. I just played acoustic. And sometimes I'd play little duo shows with my friend Mitch Zorn. Um, and it was amazing and I loved it. But then when I got the band going and played those shows, like I realized there's this whole nother level of like live music that like is the greatest feeling. Like, and now we're doing bigger and bigger shows, and like as a band, like we're getting really tight and starting to do more creative things, starting to choreograph our show, and it's the exact same feeling I get like writing a really good song, like trying to put together a really good show, and then when you actually execute that on a stage and like have a sold out barn and like people are having a ton of fun, like it's hard to beat that feeling. Like the stage is probably like my happiest place in the world at this point now. Like I feel the most content, the most comfortable on stage. So much so that it's almost detrimental when you get off. But no, it's a really, really cool experience. And it's awesome too. Like for us, like when we first started, obviously we'd always mix in originals, but I've really tried hard to make it so we're not a bar band. So we are like bringing out as much original content as we can, but it's a very fine line of losing the crowd with those things, right? And I think what's really encouraged me is like you said, like people do sing along to our songs, especially in Kelowna. Like we have such a good fan base out here that is so supportive and like does take the time to like come to all our shows and learn the new original songs. And like even when I post a song on TikTok that's not out and on my Instagram, like I'll go play that at a show, and there's not a lot of people that have heard it, but there's like 5 or 10 people that are singing along with it. And I'm like, I've only posted a minute of this song, and they know the chorus already, which is really really cool. And we're at the point now where like when we play a 2 hour show in Kelowna, like we'll play like 60 to 70% originals, and a lot of it's unreleased because I haven't got the chance to put out that many, and people rock with us, which is awesome.
You've performed quite a bit in Kelowna, especially at that that brewery. Forgive me if I'm
Redbird,
yeah.
Redbird.
Okay. I've noticed like you've posted quite a bit from performing there. So I mean, I guess yeah, when you're performing somewhere so many times and you're technically from there, even though you're not, but technically you are from there,
Yeah.
people are gonna listen to you and they're gonna support like the hometown kid, you know?
Yeah, and Redbird's like a special venue to me too because that was like the first bigger venue that gave me an opportunity. I remember in 2022 going into the summer months. I think it was in April of 2022. Um they were opening their new outdoor stage for the first time. And it's about a 420 cap outside of that venue. And it was like a perfect summer day. And I got a call like in the morning to open for a band called Kentucky Eileen. And the booking manager at Redbird plays in Kentucky Eileen, and he gave me the chance to open for them. And I got to play like by myself with a guitar for like 420 people that day, which was the most I'd ever played for. I was scared shitless up on stage, but it was like the first really cool opportunity I got in Kelowna. So Redbird's always been my place after that. Like we've been able to, we've sold out 13 of 13 shows since then at Redbird, which is like amazing. Like my favorite part about that venue, apart from how like nice it is and you get great sound there, but like they're like very ingrained in the community now. Like it's a place where like when you play as a show as a musician, like it sucks if you don't have people come out. But like at Redbird, where like people are coming because it's Redbird.
Okay, well, good to know.
So
That's going to be a place that I'm going to keep in mind for this
if
summer.
you ever come up here in the summer, it is so fun an outdoor show at Redbird.
Okay, noted. I'm going to keep that in mind. But speaking of shows and speaking of performing, is there a certain ritual or like something like a pregame thing that you do before getting out on stage?
You know what? I'm just at the point where I'm starting to build that. Like I think like well we actually our videographer Amanda who works with us, like she actually just filmed a little behind the scenes at our Prospera show, and we're starting to get to that point as a band, like where we're very like starting to get organized in the way we do things and meeting up before the show in the afternoon. Like usually we'll try and like meet up with the band like in the afternoon, go for lunch if we can, get to the venue, do our sound check, and then we'll all sit as a band in the green room and we'll like run a couple of the songs acoustically that like we think need a little bit more work. And then we'll usually just mess around. Like I think a big thing for our band is like always having fun. And if we're not having fun, like that really shows on stage. And in my opinion, like you can sing as good as you want, you can play as good as you want, but like if you're not having fun up there, the audience isn't going to have fun. Like you should be having as much fun or more fun than anyone else because you're setting the tone, right? So we always try and establish that. So we'll goof around in the green room. We usually do like push-up competitions and things like that. And then we'll always do a little huddle. And like that's like kind of my favorite part because that's really what brings me back to baseball is like the pregame huddle. Like trying to get the boys fired up. And I remember in baseball, like I always did the pregame huddle for my team. So it's fun. Like with the band, we always do a pregame huddle and I try and build a little speech for them. And I'm trying to, I have yet to say the perfect speech, but it's always fun trying to get the perfect speech out there.
You'll figure it out.
But that's kind of what it looks like.
The more you say stuff, the more like more words will start to come
Yeah.
to you and you'll figure out exactly how to form the perfect speech.
Yeah. And actually like with that side of things too, like I have a show this Friday. And I was just on a call with my videographer before this and like we actually talked about like, hey, like let's not film the actual music at all of this show. Like let's film all the behind the scenes. So let's do like all the lead up during the day. And then at the show, instead of filming us, like I want you to like interview people that are at the show. And I like want to really like show the back end side of what we do because I think like that's some of the coolest content that there is. And like I don't think a lot of people know what that looks like. So I very much like resonate with that idea right now.
The behind the scenes is always the best content. Like you, of course, people going there, they want to see you perform and stuff, but getting to know what's going on behind the scenes, like what you do, like prepping for a show,
Totally.
always the most interesting. Even as the day in the life as an athlete too, like you want to see them before they get on the field or they get on the ice wherever they have to go, because you
Yeah.
want to be that person. That's a really smart idea, and I am 1000% behind you on that. I'll be waiting for that video too.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Now you also opened up for the James Barker Band, huge Canadian band. We all love JBB. So how was that experience like, and what did you learn from them?
Yeah, it was, I mean, that for me was the biggest, like, that was thus far the biggest moment for me as a musician. It was like such a full circle thing for me too, because I saw James Barker Band play in 2019 at the very first Denim on the Diamond Festival in Kelowna, which is our country music festival. And a couple things came full circle on that. Like, first off, that was before I had heard that Zach Bryan song that I referenced and got into songwriting. It was like a week before it. So it was a very important time for me, like where I got into music really seriously that week. And I saw them play, and I went to that concert or that festival, sorry, by myself. I had no friends. It was my first summer in Kelowna. And I didn't really have anyone to go with, and I just said, screw it, I'm gonna go by myself. And I watched James Barker's set right near the front of the mosh pit with no friends, like just in it, having the best time. But it also really like forced me to pay attention to the music. And I remember watching them, and they did this whole Led Zeppelin medley that was like unbelievable at the end of the show. And like I love rock music and classic rock music, so like that was so cool for me to like mix that with country. And I was really inspired by their set. And I remember like watching them and being like, that's what I want to do. Like I would love to do that on a stage like this. And then a couple things came full circle. Like I first off met them at the CCMAs this year, which was really cool. That was the first time I bumped into them at one of the galas, and I just quickly said hi. I told them that story, and they're awesome. Like so good to me, considering the fact they didn't know who I was whatsoever. Um, and then we actually got to play at Denim on the Diamond this summer. So doing the exact same thing they did, except for the fact we weren't the headliners and we were early in the day, so it wasn't as cool. But we got to play at that festival, which was amazing because I actually got to be on that stage and do that same thing that I watched in 2019. And then it really came full circle when, and actually the funny thing was Redbird was involved with that Prosper event, and Redbird reached out to me and they said like, hey, like we think you'd be a good fit with James Barker Band. And they reached out to the guys. It was all good. And I got to play with them. And the show itself, like couldn't have exceeded my expectations more. Like we got the opportunity to play like a nice 50-minute opening set, which like sometimes as an opener, like you get like 30 minutes and it's really hard to like get into your groove. But I think the coolest moment of the show was like we were on stage and it was like our third song, and I look over and the entire James Barker Band is side stage watching our set, which like meant like for me as an artist, like it's scary opening up for like a band that talented, and to have their support while you're playing was like I had like this jolt energy that like it carried me right through. And I actually was really sick for that show, which sucked. And I was really nervous about my voice because I was losing it. I had a really bad nasal cold, and I saw them. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. We're good. We got this. And then after the show, they were so great. And actually, when I walked off stage, they all like congratulated us. And then James pulled me aside and asked if I wanted to do a song with him. And we ended up deciding on Barefoot Blue Jean Night. Me and him went up and did that together, which was the coolest thing he could have done. Like it meant so much to me. It was beyond good that night. And then actually, like when I was in Nashville this past week, Connor, the drummer, came out to one of my songwriting rounds and watched, which was so nice. Like those guys are the best. I can't say enough good things about them. It really does. Like they have a really good reputation for a reason. And after meeting them properly and hanging out with them, you can really see why they have that reputation.
They're a really good group of guys. And it's so refreshing to hear that about artists in the industry, because I feel like we can sometimes get so caught up with some artists who aren't the nicest. So when you actually hear that these guys are down to earth, which they are, and they're like that with other artists,
Yeah.
like we absolutely love that. Now, what's your favorite JBB song though? Now I'm curious. There's so
Okay.
many good ones. So I mean, I'm probably putting you on the spot right now, but like if you had to pick.
Okay. So like some of the new stuff, like out of the new ones, I love Heartbeat and Champagne because I just think those are great songs. But my all-time favorite one is Want You In It.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
So good. That
Um,
is like easily my favorite one. Because like that was the first thing I heard from them. That's what made me become a fan. Like I think they released that in like, when did that even come out? 2017?
no, I think yeah. I think it was 20. I remember I think 2019, 2018. I'm pretty sure like around that is when they.
It was a little bit before 2019 for sure. I think it was around that time period, but I remember like when they played at Denim on the Diamond, I was so stoked to hear that song.
Such a
But
good
yeah,
song.
great song. So that one's my
agree with
favorite.
you on that one. I was gonna say either She's a Hit, that's a banger. I Want You In
Yes.
It, or Meet Your Mama. That one I'm like,
New Year Mama's great too.
so good. All right, now new music. You just released a new single called Neon Updates. So let's talk. What else is in the works for the rest of this year?
There's a lot in the works. Like um
Dawson.
the I think like there's so many different ways to like go after your release strategy as an artist nowadays. Like there's so many different ways. Like there's obviously still the traditional way of like releasing a couple singles and putting out an album. And I don't really think the album makes a lot of sense nowadays. Like a lot of people are moving towards the EP and trying to get more music out in smaller batches. And for me, I kind of see the extreme side of that where like I want to get as many songs out as frequently as I can. And like even as a listener, like sometimes like a great album to me is awesome, like when it's a coherent idea. But at the same time, like sometimes it's frustrating when your favorite artist like goes dormant for a year and a half. Like the waiting game is tough for me. And I think Zach Bryan really like showed like when he came out, like that rapid fire release, like that's what kept me like so engaged in that journey. And I was really inspired by that. And so with my releases like this winter, like I've put so much time in the studio. I'm lucky enough to like have a best friend with a studio that we decided to like sit down and like produce things ourselves. So I think I've put together like 11 new songs now that aren't released or anything. Like there's a lot of them. Like some I've teased, some I haven't. And then I think the goal is to try and get one out like every month and a half minimum for the next year. Like I want to put out like 11 songs in the next year minimum, and release them at least once a month. So there's always something new coming. And then within that, like I'm not just recording a set of songs that's the songs that are going to come out. I've recorded all these songs and there's a couple I've picked as the best ones, a couple I like that need more work. And then I'm continuously trying to write new songs and beat them so that like I can make sure the best stuff's coming out. So like even 2.5 weeks ago, I wrote a song called Back to Leaving that I was like, this is a really good song. And it just so happened I was going to Nashville in the next few days, and my buddy advised that like I demo it with his friend. He's like, he's a really good producer, you should test it out. And we went in to demo it for a couple hours, and like an hour, and I said, let's just make the cut today. Like this sounds great. So we cut the whole thing in 5 hours, and it needs to be mixed still, but that's the next single now. Like it just leapfrogged everything. So like my goal is to like ensure that I want to put out the best music possible at all times, but I want to put out a lot of music. So I've got all the stuff prepped, and then I'm just trying to beat it. And if I can beat it, I'll put out something brand new over top of it. But there's a ton of new music coming. I think there's like 35 songs out of like hundreds that I've identified that I want to put out, and then I'm just trying to beat them.
Okay, you should put all 35 out all at once.
I have too many. To be honest, the problem is just a money thing. It's like, how much can I afford to put out?
Yeah, it can be so expensive.
It's really expensive. Like I think that's like, I don't know if a lot of people realize how expensive music is to make. Like if you're making really good sounding quality music. And that's another thing that I've like looked into is like, how do I make it as cheap as possible and still maintain that quality, right? So that's why I got into the producing it myself side of things. And I think too, like as an artist, like if you understand the production side, it's a very different skill set in the studio than it is just writing a song. And if you have a really good idea of it, you don't necessarily need to know how to do it yourself on the final good copy. But if you can make rough drafts, when you go in to make the good copy, you have such a strong idea of what you want your sound to be. And especially for me, like through that process, like I have a very new idea of what I want for my sound and a very definitive idea. So like all the stuff coming out in the next year is going to be a different sound than I have on Spotify right now. Neon Updates is kind of like a little bridge the gap. And then the next one, Back to Leaving, is like more in that Tucker Wetmore or like Morgan Wallen lane than some of the previous stuff.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I can't wait to hear it.
But then in the winter this year, I'm gonna put out like some Zach Bryan stuff because I
feel
love that too. I love both sides. Like I think I'm like a little bit weird in the sense like my favorite band is the Lumineers. My like favorite artist is Zach Bryan, but then I love like Morgan Wallen too. So I really like both sides. So I write on both sides of it, and I want to put out both sounds.
You can. It's not like you
Yeah.
can't do that.
I know there's like rules to that, and I just like don't really care about that. Like I'm just gonna put out songs that I really like. So there'll be a little bit of everything. But like this summer, it'll be like Morgan Wallen lane. then winter is gonna be like a little bit of Zach Bryan-y stuff.
It matches the vibes. So like Zach Bryan
Exactly.
matches like
I
the
try and go seasonal.
yeah, no, it's a very smart move to go seasonal. But for like the songs that you have, how many of them are like party songs? How many of them are like sad songs? Like what's the vibe for these songs? Do we got
Yeah, so
going on?
I as a writer in general, I always gravitate towards sad songs, a lot of breakup songs. But honestly, like majority of my writing lately has been really centered around how do I write songs that aren't that. And that's why I really got into writing with other musicians because it takes you away from your predispositions. You can get fresh ideas. And for me too, like I found I really do well when someone brings an outside idea and I can write to that rather than just trying to write to my own experiences all the time. And sometimes it's really cool to like take someone else's idea but then relate your own stuff to it and then you get something really unique. So a lot of the new stuff that'll be coming out, like the Back to Leaving song that's the next single, is really a sad breakup song.
Sounds bad.
Um,
Really
but
sad.
I think there might be one more breakup song in there, but there's a lot of the stuff this summer is gonna be really fun. Like I got this song called "Whole Lot of Waylon and Willie" that's like so fun that I'm gonna try and cut and get put out for this summer. There's also one called High Noon that's just like a good old hangover song that's so good. That one's super fun. So like this summer I want to put out a lot of fun stuff and then we'll go sad again in the winter.
Well, speaking
But
of
I want to get like a nice mix. I just don't want it to all be the exact same.
that's fair, that's fair. Well, speaking of all these new songs, there has to be new shows that you're going to be performing some of these songs at. So can you give us a list as to what your summer looks like?
Yeah, so I don't have a manager or a booking agent at this point. I do everything myself, which I really like doing that side of it. And especially the booking side, like it allows me to be a little bit more creative and pick and choose what I want to do and all that. For this summer, like we are mainly playing in the Okanagan area, and then we have a couple shows sprinkled outside of that. And then I have like these times, like these gaps that I'm looking to book in other places. Like I'd like to do something in Victoria, something in Vancouver, another one in Calgary and Edmonton. We were there a couple months back. And then hopefully we pick up a festival or a couple festivals along the way. But those, I think, too, like we kind of got to the level where I think we're ready for festivals right now. But the problem is festivals book a year in advance.
Yeah, that's fair.
So sometimes those things can be tough. But like we've got some bigger flagship shows. Like our biggest one in Kelowna for the next little bit will be at Revelry on April 27th. And Revelry's a new I think it's a 550 cap venue out here. It's like amazing. It's like patterned after like some of the Nashville bars, like amazing sound, amazing stage. And we haven't played there yet. So I'm really, really excited. And there's some super cool things in the works for that. That I'll be doing like alongside Revelry, like in the future too. So that's really cool. And then we got some more Redbird shows for the summer for sure. We'll be playing actually in the Lower Mainland. We got the main stage at Cloverdale Rodeo this year, so that'll be fun on May 18th. And then, yeah, a little bit here and there. But for me too, like I always try and leave my schedule like not jam packed for the summer because so much comes up, like on the week of or like couple weeks before in the summer. Like some great opportunities generally come our way. So I didn't want to pack it. And I want to try and get something for Stampede. But it's in the works, but we'll see.
That'd be really exciting if you can get something for Stampede. That's huge. Huge.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, it looks like you're still going to have a pretty busy summer. And it's smart too to not overly pack out yourself because you're still human and you want to do stuff yourself as well. Like I'm sure you want to hang out with your friends and your family this summer as well.
Yeah. And I think I'm not mentioning a lot of it. Like I think we have 22 dates booked or something. So like we're playing a lot.
Sounds a lot.
Yeah, and like
you have a couple.
And in Kelowna too, like one thing I really enjoy doing is like we like there's some dates I can't talk about yet. That's the other problem. But in Kelowna too, like I like doing a lot of like private work too. Like there's a lot of like bigger events out here that are like private things. So I have a lot of those. And then I'm actually doing a couple weddings this year. I did a couple weddings last summer for the first time, and it was so fun. Like I love playing weddings, but like obviously it's a little bit different. Like the only people like I'll play weddings with are like fans of us usually that want us to play like original stuff because we just aren't like, and I'm just like not a huge cover artist. Like I cover songs, but like originals are at the heart of what I do. So sometimes it's tough if someone wants just a cover band for their wedding. I'll be like, that's not us. But yeah,
Do
there's a lot of stuff mixed in.
you have like a favorite memory of performing at a wedding?
Yes, I have like the best memory of a wedding performance. The first one we ever did, um, we played in a smaller venue for a couple, and they were like the best people. And there's about 55 people there. It was just me and Mitch Zorn playing. Um, and one of the people at the wedding party came up and asked if we could play You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones. And I know the song, like I've heard it. I had never sang it. Mitch had never played it, but I was like, I think I could do it. Like I know it well enough. So we did this like really like I don't know why I chose to do it this way, but we did like this like really like somber cover of it. And it ended up being like this incredible experience. Like we somehow played a really good cover of it for never playing it. And sometimes those things turn into a train wreck. So I'm not saying I do that every time. But this one was really, really good. And I was halfway through the song, or sorry, no, I went the whole song. I played it like looking at my phone at the lyrics because I didn't know it. So I'm reading the lyrics and chords and playing it, and I'm really focused because I know we're doing a good job. I don't want to mess it up. And the room was dead quiet while we were playing. It was loud for a lot of this show. Like it's cocktail hour, everyone's having fun, but it got like really, really quiet. And we're playing and playing, and we finished the song. And I look up, and every single person in the room was crying, like waterworks, like literally every single. Like I've never experienced this. It was the most like profound moment of music. I look over, Mitch is crying, like Mitch playing alongside me. He's like, he was just playing harmonica on the song, like this really awesome harmonica lick he came up with, and he's like bawling. And then I look at everyone, they're bawling, and I like was a little bit confused, honestly. Like I didn't know, like I was like, I didn't know it was that sad. But afterwards, I was talking with a couple people from the wedding party, and they had mentioned that Taylor's both dads of the bride and groom had passed away that year, within the last year or so. And they both loved the Rolling Stones. So like it was a very like heavy moment, and it was just, yeah, it was amazing. But it was like a very sad thing, but a very like almost like the way it worked out was like such a good thing too. It was like beautiful. Like it was literally like I walked away from that like just so inspired, and like I was like, that's like the power of music. So that's what made me love weddings, like because like that isn't something that would happen at a bar ever, or even like a big show in a stadium. Like that's not how it is most of the time.
The wedding is a lot more intimate, and
Yeah, and I really enjoy the people side of music. Like that's why I like playing gigs like that. And especially in Kelowna, like I kind of mentioned this before to you, but like the community side of Kelowna is so powerful and strong, and I really care about that side of it. And playing those events, like I really get to like learn more about the community, and inevitably like I'll meet somebody at that event that's doing something in the community. I'll play for them, and yeah,
well, you get to experience that a lot more this summer if you're playing
yeah,
more. Then you can come back and share more stories as to what happened at all these weddings.
exactly.
All right, Dawson. Well, you have a set summer ahead of you, and all the new songs I'm sure people are going to love when you finally start to release some of them. But before I let you go, we're going to play a little game, okay?
Okay,
So it's this or that. So you're going to answer one or the other. Cool?
I'm in.
All right, Dawson. So whiskey or beer?
Beer.
Boots
A
or
one-time whiskey, but now beer.
okay, beer's the good way to go. Boots or sneakers?
Boots.
Cowboy hat or snapback?
A regular day snapback for shows and like going out, cowboy hat.
Okay, so you wear the belt buckle too then if you're going out for shows? Full on cowboy. All right, Seattle or the Blue Jays?
Blue Jays, and it's not even close.
Okay, how about the Buffalo Bills the Seattle Seahawks?
Seahawks.
Okay, BC Lions or Tennessee Titans?
Oh,
Oh,
I gotta go with like Titans, I think. Like I
yeah,
can't say I'm a BC Lions fan.
fair.
Not like against them. I'm just not into the BC Lions.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, ocean or lake?
Lake. Lake. Big lake guy.
Big lake guy. Summer tune or an after summer tune? So you like the party anthems or you like those somber breakup songs?
Somber breakup songs.
How about a fully produced version of a song or an acoustic version of a song?
Depends on the song, I think, but I'm gonna go with fully produced because that's what I'm learning about more, and I think there's just it's just more musical. But I think like the acoustic version of songs is like great too. And honestly I listen to a lot of acoustic versions. That's the toughest one yet. I don't even want to answer that one.
Okay, next one. Broadway or Midtown? Because I know you just came back from Nashville.
Midtown.
Has to go Midtown.
Midtown's great.
And now last one. This one might be very difficult for you to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Zach Bryan or Morgan Wallen?
Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan. Okay. Okay, fair. Well, thanks, Dawson. That was fun. Fun little game. Actually, I have one more question for you. Since we've asked this to our team, the Abbey Canucks, I'm going to ask you this question. How many unread text messages do you have on your phone right now?
I think I'm pretty good. I'm bad these days. Like it's been worse, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, that's it. 20. Oh,
22.
23, 24, 24. I don't know why I don't have the notification icon telling me 24.
Why don't you have that?
I don't know. It doesn't show up. Like it literally just has nothing at the messages thing, but there's 24.
24. All right. Well,
I've been working clearing them off. Actually, yesterday was a clear it off day. I'm still working on it though.
how much has it ever gone to?
I never let it get past like 40 or something. Like I try and I hate when people like have like 300 unread text messages. I'm like, come on.
Like, what are you talking about? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Like honestly, 24 is terrible for me. Like I feel bad about that. I just hate leaving people unread.
24 is a lot of text messages, but it's not nearly as bad as like having over 100. So you're good.
Yes.
You're good.
And it's an okay spot to be.
Okay, spot. Exactly. All right, Dawson. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Country with Celine. Love chatting with you and can't wait to see everything you release this year and all the shows you have booked for the summer.
Thank you so much for having me, Celine. That was fun.